Hello, it's Philip Taylor speaking from Richmond Green Chambers in London. Today I'm looking at a book which has come to us from Oxford University Press. It's called Company Directors and it covers duties, liabilities and remedies. Now in a third edition. It's been edited by Simon Mortimore, Queen's Counsel. As I say, it comes from OUP. It's a first-class book. I've given it the title for our book review of the following: a massive work on a massive subject, brilliantly revised for 2017. And what I've done is I've had a good look at what's in the book. It's a very heavy book. There it is, red, well, sort of reddish cover, maroon perhaps. There is the side of it. There's nothing on the back. The book runs to about nearly 1,200 pages, nice hardback. The index at the back is by paragraph numbering, and there's a very substantial index, as you can see, starting there. And then before you get to the index, right at the back, you've got the last chapter, chapter 36. You can see it's got paragraph numbering at the sides and lots of goody footnotes at the bottom. Now at the front of the book, this is the main front page there. Then you've got the basic information about OUP. Then you've got the preface itself. And there's a lot of case law referred to here, not unsurprising at all. And then after that, you've got a list of the very large number of people who contributed to this book. You can see a large number. So again, like a number of the OUP books, these works are incredibly well put together. There's a summary of the various chapter headings, and you can see from there, it lists with each chapter the name of the person who has compiled that particular chapter. Sometimes it's more than one person, of course. Total number of chapters 36, and then an index at the back. And there are 7 parts to it. Then there's a very detailed section of contents thereafter, which I'll just skip through. After that, you get to the table of cases. And then after that, obviously a large number of cases here. Table of statutes, the Company Act, of course, being the Companies Act being the main work. And then after that you've got a table of statutory instruments, and then again after that you've got one or two other very useful pieces of information. You've got table of European Council directives and regulations, and then you've got international legislation, only a little bit there, but we are becoming more global. Then a very useful glossary. Now the glossary is very helpful because this is a statute-based subject, as I'm sure everybody knows who's involved in it, and it gives a very useful bit of information and guidance for the meaning of certain expressions that are used. For instance, takeover code is one of them, which will be of interest to some, I'm sure. Then you can see in the various parts, you've got an introduction, and then you've got a mini index of what's actually in it. Then you've got for each of the chapters, again, a short index, which sets out the contents. So you should be able to find things pretty quickly. And as I say, you can see here, appointment of directors, for instance, here you've got the paragraph numbering at the sides and the footnotes. So everything that you need to know. It's a heavy book, and as I say, it's a hardback. Now, what do we say? Well, our review's relatively short on this because I welcome this. I'll start off by saying the following, which is probably a statement of the obvious to some, and that is there are now a large number of books now available which look at the changing role of the director, and we welcome this new edition of Company Directors, which has been edited by Simon Mortimore and Queen's Counsel and his formidable band of contributors. The title is rightly described in the following way as the established authority on the law relating to directors of companies incorporated under the UK Companies Acts, because that is what you get in about 1,200 pages, 7 parts and 36 chapters, and a huge amount of case law to go with it, which is to be expected because this is a case law heavy subject. The new edition features tremendous new case law, as I've just indicated, and the all-important developments in the law, including the Small Business Enterprise and Employment Act 2015. The book's being published in 2017, and I'm recording this just as we embark on the general election campaign for the 8th of June. We're not expecting any major changes in this area after the general election. But of course, Brexit will have its own effect, I'm sure, in every area of our legal work. Now, getting back to the Business Enterprise and Employment Act 2015, the Act itself, which is very relevant to this book, improves transparency, including requiring directors to be natural persons unless exceptions apply. And it simplifies company filing requirements, clarifies the application of general duties to shadow directors, modernises directors' disqualification, and reforms insolvency law to facilitate proceedings when there has been wrongdoing. And of course, I'm sure we are going to have further modifications in the not too distant future, with digitisation coming in I think a fairly substantial way quite quickly once we get the general election out of the way. We've lost the Crime and Courts Bill, which was before the House of Commons, and that will come back again, I'm sure, after the election, and we'll see what happens then. But I certainly would foresee a great deal of change coming quite quickly with the online courts expanding and so forth. Now, the emphasis on the third edition from the editor has been a wealth of the new case law relating to directors' duties before the English courts, all of which are now analysed and explained, and they include the following decisions, and I've listed them. First of all, the Supreme Court decisions, which are worth looking at, are Prest and Petrodel Resources, Jetivia and Bilter UK, and FHI European Ventures and Cedar Capital Partners, and finally Eclairs Group and JKX Oil and Gas, those being the leading Supreme Court decisions. Then in the lower courts, the Court of Appeal, we've got Smithston Limited and Naga, and Newcastle International Airport and Eversheds, which are also very well covered. These are probably the leading cases that we've got. And then down at the High Court level, we've got decisions reported for Universal Project Management Services and Fort Gilkicker and Madoff Securities International and Raven, and then the wrongful trading case of Re-Rolls Builders. Now, I think those cases alone give you a flavour of how much case law is actually involved in this book. And I think it's very useful to have it. My only concern is that before too long, some of these decisions are overtaken by further decisions, so we've always got to keep our eyes open. Non-UK cases are also covered, including Weavering Macro Fixed Income Fund Limited and Peterson in the Cayman Islands Court of Appeal, and the 2006 decision in the Hong Kong Court Final Appeal, which is Chen and Jason. Now, in keeping with developments in case law and litigation and legislation, the book now includes expanded coverage of multiple derivatives claims, directors' exposure to third-party claims, which I think is very helpful, and a new chapter on civil remedies for market abuse. I wouldn't be at all surprised to see that expanding in due course as well. Now, this edition has probably been described by the publishers as a complete reference work on the law relating to company directors, and is the first port of call for any serious corporate lawyers and scholars on the subject. It's absolutely correct, and I certainly think that anybody who is involved in any form of company law matter, corporate governance it was called in the past, but anything looking specifically at the duties of directors would find this book very helpful to refer to, and I include in that anybody who is doing undergraduate or postgraduate work in company law. The third edition attempts to state the law as at the 1st of September 2016, although the rules covering the Insolvency England and Wales Rules 2016 of course apply from the 6th of April 2017, and I'm recording this actual review in April 2017. Let's have a quick look at the book again. Here it is, heavy book, spine, opening in the middle. Let's just see what we've got when it opens up. I'm looking here at duty to avoid conflicts of interest. I've done a case of that very recently. This is the introduction to it. Again, it's the various reforms that have been attempted concerning conflict of interest, because it's an important area in its own right, especially in banking law. You can see you've got the paragraph numbering at the sides there, and you've got a lot of footnoting, which you can see even with that, the detail, the scope of the duty to avoid conflicts of interest, avoidance of situations of conflict and so on. So everything that you're looking for will be here. As I say, there is a very large amount of case law, and you do have, in fact, a lot of information detailed in the footnotes as well. One of the problems I would say is that it is a very substantial work, but there again, if anything, it is a main work of reference and very much for the practitioner within corporate governance. Anyway, I'd like to thank Simon Mortimore very much, and all the people at OUP for the work they put in, including all of the contributors, into this new edition. You make our lives so much easier by producing this work, and there's a very big thank you to all of you for what you do. It's appreciated. Bye-bye.